Thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Christian, for joining us. So we are here today at the World Class Designer Conference to talk about what makes a designer world class, and an interesting point of view and interesting subject that you would be talking to us about is hacking your design career. Now,
Yeah.
Christian has been designing for several years, over 14 years, has worked with massive clients and has hosted and organized one of the biggest UX-based conferences, UX Plus, for 2 years in a row with amazing audiences from and speakers from huge companies. And he's somebody who knows a thing or two about hosting these conferences and having the technical difficulties. But today we are here to learn more about what he says about hacking a design career and making it in this field. Over to you, Christian.
All right. So I'll start my talk. So give me a second to set things up. 1 second. Sharing my screen. And then 1 second. So thanks for everyone being here today. Yeah, there's gonna be hopefully a quick talk. Gonna talk about hacking my design career, and yeah, we'll start. Everyone see my screen? Well,
Yes, we can see, but Christian, I think the volume on the music is a bit high.
all right, all right.
If you could reduce it.
No problem. No problem.
Yeah.
So let me try that one more time. So you guys can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So yeah, thank you for having me. Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
I'm Christian Sanose. I'm a designer. And over the last 14 years, I've done many different things, mostly in design or staying in design. Yeah, I'm the founder and CEO of UX Plus. It's a design conference based here in Asia. But yeah, like last year, we tried to expand that all over the world. And yeah, last year we had a good amount of attendees, more speakers, and it was super fun to do that last year. Actually, next week I'll be launching a um, new brand under UX Plus, which is UX Plus University. So it allows UX designers to be or allows students to be UX designers in 3 months, and they only pay when they're hired. Before that, I worked in the tech startup, First Circle. So if you squint really hard, you'll see me somewhere there. Like squint really hard. This is what we did in First Circle. So we allowed financing for small to medium-sized businesses, and we use technology to essentially make our service faster than banks. 4 years ago, I co-founded a UX agency, and that was fun as well. Learned a lot, grew a lot back then as well. We designed different applications, websites for airlines, largest airlines here in the Philippines, to applications that, say, for example, can control your air conditioning device, websites for them as well, websites for Junior NBA Asia, which was fun. Um, Notably, 9 years ago, I designed the websites of Kobe Bryant, Dwayne Wade, so awesome athletes, Usher, Usain Bolt. And I guess my talk for the day would be a design talk with lessons and shit, but the WCD team told me to clean that up. So I titled it differently How I Hacked My Design Career and the Lessons I Learned Along the Way. So you typically see something like this, right? Like when you're trying to get into a design career, you'd think of it, maybe you'd have a linear path, or maybe you'd have an idea in your head of how success would look like over time. Maybe you'll start at the design school, and then you'll become a junior designer, get promoted, become a manager, become head of design or chief design officer. You quit your job, you start your own thing, you invest in Bitcoin, and then you eventually buy your Lamborghini or an island, and it's all fun and good. But typically, the ideal design career never really happens. It's more like this, actually. The real design career is you'd get the first job, you drop out of college. Um, sorry, you'd go to college, you drop out of college, you download Photoshop illegally, you get a first job, you have dreams of becoming a digital illustrator, you win some contests, but you learn soon find out that nobody pays illustrators anyway. And then you learn Dreamweaver, you freelance for a while. You never know when it's successful or not, or whenever you're going to get your next client during freelancing. And then you start a web design agency, but now you don't know how to run a business. And you go through that loop, and then you give up, you sell the agency, or you quit and find a full-time job, and maybe that works, and then you quit and find another job, and then you quit, and then you never know what's next after that, right? Like, this is a general picture of, I guess, my design career. It's never been a straight path. And um at every step I'm learning, but also I'm trying to succeed, and I'm also somehow failing at different times as well. So this could be the story of many designers out there. And I guess I'll go back to the start, like how I found myself um, teaching UX design, like building conferences, consulting with clients. So I started at 5 years old, but essentially I didn't know how to draw back then. But when I was 12 years old, I still sucked. So I didn't really improve that much. But now that I'm 31, I still can't draw. So much for that. Like, I gave up on illustration fairly early on when I was 12, and I stumbled upon design when I played The Sims. So if you're familiar with The Sims, it's kind of like this, where you control people, and then they put them in pools, and then you remove the stairs, and you die eventually. So that's essentially what you do. You're God. You put people in rooms and you kill them, or you kill your own family, or Sims family at least. And then, like, as I was doing The Sims, right? Like, I was um, more enjoying the building part, like where I killed my Sims, the slaughterhouses essentially, and like I enjoyed this part, like just building, creating houses, and that piqued my interest. Like, this was so easy. I didn't need to learn how to draw. I needed to learn how to use the tools, and that ended up go uh, into so many things that I built. And then at 12 years old, I uploaded my creations. It was downloaded 87,000 times. So that was like 20 years ago or something, right? Um, yeah, like 20 years ago, 90,000 downloads 20 years ago was crazy. And but really, like, what I was doing was more art and less design. At 14, I stumbled upon a basketball forum website, and they had these signatures at the bottom, really, like, essentially this was their signature art, and was super curious how they did that. Like, I asked around, and they said to download Photoshop. Here's a torrent. Like, I didn't know, like, you had to pay for it, and I created my own eventually. Learned from the tutorials in that forum, and created signatures, wallpapers, and then eventually websites. Like, I wasn't charging for any of these, but that's fine. Like, I didn't know I could charge for it anyway. Then I learned web development by using Photoshop slice tools. So essentially, what you do is you'd have an image, you slice it up, you generate a formatting HTML files, which was fun. And then you can take that HTML, you put it in Dreamweaver. Think of it like Microsoft front page, or maybe that's even older, right? You'd click around, you'd replace images with text, and you export that, put that in a web host, and you're designing websites already. And that was fun. So I did that for the forum, and essentially, like I built websites that had bad line heights, like aren't super readable. This was in 2005. Um, and I did that. Like I did more. These were actual official websites of athletes, and I was doing it for free because I didn't know like this was a job. And my school found out, like where I lived, there was a church, and they wanted me to design their website. And like I did that for free. I did it for the parish, and I didn't know, like I was just having fun, right? I did it for my school, and eventually my city. And I was doing all of these things, and not charging. But then I started to post my work online. So posting my work online essentially got me $100 each, 100 US dollars each, which was fun for like someone like a 13-year-old or 14, 15-year-old. And that was fun. Like I kept doing websites like these, and I couldn't imagine that they paid me $100 for it, which was crazy at that time. And these were all people like from other countries that didn't know essentially who I am, but they just saw my portfolio, they hired me, and um, wanted to pay me. So that was fun. So I guess my first lesson in hacking is just loving what you do, and success will follow eventually. Just um, it's it's been said many times, but I guess it all boils down to that, right? Like regardless if it gets hard or it gets easy, if you don't love design, or if you don't love what you do, you probably won't succeed in it, or love wouldn't translate to learning or pushing yourself. So just love what you do. And I was designing basically every single day. And I honed my skills and learn new ones as well. Like I try to poke around, like what's beyond Photoshop, what's InDesign, what's After Effects, and I just kept making. I kept getting better. I never stopped learning. But then at this time, I dropped out of college because we were supposed to move to the States pretty soon. I was, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I was around 16 or something back then, and I dropped out of college. And then I inquired for a job, and I got into that job. They hired me. They looked at the websites I made, and the wallpapers I made, and they loved it. Hired me as a graphic designer, which was awesome. And then they asked me, do you know Adobe Illustrator? Like that's a tool we use. And I said, no problem. I love Illustrator. I didn't know shit about Illustrator. Like I had no idea what Adobe Illustrator was. But um, 1 week before getting on that job, watch lynda.com, watch different tutorials, learned the Bezier tool, and figured it out until a lot along the way. So I guess my next lesson, it's not really fake it until you make it. It's really fake it until you become it, until you're not faking it anymore. Like you have to put yourself in situations that if you love what you do enough, you'll push yourself. You'll constantly keep learning. So I guess all of these lessons stacked together, or in hindsight, works well. But yeah, like I just said, yeah, like why not? Like Photoshop was easy. Why not learn Illustrator too? So at that job, learned Illustrator, created illustrations, posters, artworks, even websites back then. Had no idea how to do websites, but this was the style that was, I guess, accepted back then, the Web 2.0, like bubbly button style and shiny buttons. And I had to now move to the States, so I quit that job. I had to migrate with my family in 2007. And at that time, I actually stopped doing web design for around 5 years, from 2006 to 2011. And I stopped doing websites, designing websites and coding them, because I was preoccupied. Like I loved illustration so much. So I did these things, illustrations for shirts, like personal artworks that people loved, um, and they wanted me to do it for their T-shirts and like unchanged, just my style. And they wanted it on their shirts, so I did this for Quicksilver. Did a couple of artworks, which was crazy. Did this as well for a band in the States, and someone actually used the illustration on the left and tattooed it on their back, which was amazing. Like that's permanent. Like why would you ever do that? But I guess they love the illustration. And yeah, like I got to a career where like I didn't know it was a career. Like I was just doing things for myself. Like I did illustrations like these for a t-shirt contest site and it won. And then they printed 4,000 pieces of it that it was so crazy. It appeared on TV shows, and I haven't even received my copies of that T-shirt, which was awesome. So, yeah, like I found it on Conan on a TV show, and then I found it on Nickelodeon, and then I didn't really receive up until now any copy of that shirt, which was funny. So I guess my next lesson for this is to stay true to yourself, like build your gut and then trust it. And for me, like trusting my gut, just following my own thoughts meant that I had to say no to clients for a while. Like I was loving illustrating, and I had to stop doing posters and brochures and everything else in graphic design. And when you search for a client stock photo, this is actually what shows up, which is funny. Um, Everyone's smiling and shaking hands, and everyone's like having fun, but in reality, like I don't think I've had interactions that were as photogenic as these search results. Really, like when you're in client meeting, they ask you, can you make the logo bigger? And then like I had to say no. Or can you use my niece's sketch instead? And I had to say no. Like I was having way too much fun illustrating things like these. Like I won $10,000 in a contest, which was super crazy. Like I was 17 or 18 or maybe I don't even know. I don't even remember right now. But like people voted and they loved my design, and like Adobe contacted me and they wanted my illustration to be part of their global release of Adobe CS5 back then, which was awesome. They featured me. And I was a kid, like I had no idea what I was doing. Like they used my name in ads, which was like what? Like why would you use my name in ads? Is that the contract I signed that I didn't read? So basically, like I was having fun, and at this time, I was 21 years old. I followed my passion and tried basically anything in design, even joining design contests like Crowdspring, which is basically it's speculative work kind of contest. Like people submit their designs, only one gets to win. There was this movement back then that you had to say no to spec work. But I was young, I had nothing to lose, and I even give this advice to any young designer. Like there are many rules in design and you can choose to follow it, but really like it's up to you. It's not really like there's one way to go about like, oh, stop spec work, you're ruining the design and the design world. But if that allows you to get opportunities that you weren't able to get before, why not? So I joined Crowdspring, and they had like logo contests, and like I could do logos in a few hours, why not, right? So up until like this guy uh saw my work, like he wanted to do a logo, and like I found out about that guy through um, CrowdSpring, and basically he asked like, "What's up, CSJ?" And I said like, "Sup, baseball legend Albert Pujols? Can you design my logo?" "Sure, here you go." So I designed his logo, and he loved it. So that's just basically me saying yes to opportunities. It's me, if there's something out there that I could possibly do, um, I'll try to take it on because I don't have anything to lose, at least when I'm starting out. And if you find that there's seemingly no opportunities, try to do something you've never done before, or people have said like, don't do that. Like, it's up to you, right? Like, your time is up to you, your skills are all up to you, your learning are all up to you. So just say yes and figure it out along the way. And he loved the logo so much that he asked like if I could design his website too. And I was like, will my fans like it if I start writing on my blog? Uh, did you see the new iPhone 4S? Should we do an app? It should be. I'll do it. I said yes, and but I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to do a website. Like, I don't even remember anymore. This was 2011, and it's been 5 years since the last time I touched code, and everything has changed. But I tried to learn. I try to learn website design. What do websites look like now? UI design, HTML, CSS, WordPress, PHP, talking to clients, hiring employees, paying taxes, managing egos, project management. Like, what is UX? What is this new thing? That wasn't a thing back when I still designed websites 5 years ago. I'll figure it out. So I designed this website, and I didn't know that the same agency handled different websites, which handled different athletes, which I'll talk about in a bit. But really, it's just me staying out of my comfort zone. I'd say comfort is the enemy of progress. If I'm trying something new and I feel comfortable, it's not really that new, or it's not really that different. So I got to work with other athletes that were part of the same agency. Got to work with Kobe Bryant, signed his website, his foundation, his logos, official logos for his foundation, his personal brand. Got to meet him as well when I still had hair, and worked with Dwayne Wade, which was fun too. Like, designed his website, his book, his logo, even the logo got on his shoes, but I never received the shoes. But it's all good because I got to work with Usain Bolt, design this website. Big Sean, who's a recording artist, hip hop artist. Super awesome to get to work with him there. Worked with Usher. Usher had a problem. Basically, Usher wanted the website only he can sign into. And then once you sign into that website, it's clothes that he already owns, essentially. And he picks and chooses from clothes that is already in his closet, in his mansions. He sends it to wherever he sends it to a cart or a list, and then that list gets sent to a stylist, and the stylist sends it to wherever Usher is around the world, which was it's definitely only an Usher problem. And then there's me. So I started eventually started a website design studio at 21, and I was obsessed at being better. Like, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to start a business, but then like I had some success. Like, website design was really I was having momentum in my website design career, that I dropped illustration and I was obsessed about this new career. Like, I pivoted early on. Like, I thought I was going to be an illustrator forever, but yeah, like I tried getting better at every project, every PSD, pixel, layer name, class name, line of code, git push, favicon, 404 page, closing tag, animation, Facebook thumbnail, alt tag, everything. Like, I guess what I have to say about that matter is like, be obsessed. Like, it's how you get better, right? Like, the small things you think that nobody would care, or only you would care, but the details matter. It's you're teaching yourself and you're trying to get better, and you're readying yourself when, say, new opportunities come that you haven't expected before, or that allows you to, say, for example, to have different standards, right? Like, you have to be obsessive about the small things so you can be flexible depending on the opportunity. And yeah, like, I started my design studio, and I met new people, hired a developer that I worked with. Yeah, just I tried to learn how to run a business, basically, and that lasted for 5 years. We were able to essentially grow that business to a good amount, like building on the success of the early websites for the athletes we did, and we were able to do websites for um, car companies, hotels, resorts, in a tiny 17 square meter office in the Philippines. Like we found success. And I ran that until I was 25, so 7 years ago. But then it was fun. Learned so much, met new people, hired a lot of people, learned how to run a business again, like how to file taxes, how to do it right. Like I didn't go to business school for all of these, but essentially, like I had to do it because I was obsessed. Like I was trying to learn, trying to be better, and trying to produce value for clients and their customers. Eventually, I figured that like running a business at that time wasn't really for me. I had more to learn, so I sold the business to a former client, which was running their ad agency, which was much larger than I had um, at that time, and I sold it. And essentially, I guess at this point, like there's one rule. There's those things, right? Like when you have to sell a business, like you have to show your financials, show have it all clean. That's all good and well, like, and you have to do that, right? But there's also no single path to selling a business. Even at this point, like how I sold my business was a Facebook message and a long phone call and a face-to-face meeting, and it was more built on the trust that my former client had on me because I did a good job for their past project and they loved it. So it's really there's really no rules, right? Like maybe a rule is like try to keep relationships good or try to keep your good relationships regardless of which stage you are in your career. Like you never know when the next opportunity will come, and if you're good enough and if you're passionate enough and if you obsess on every detail, every interaction with the client too, that will form a good relationship that allows for future opportunities like this to actually happen. And I guess what I have to say about that is it's okay to change your mind. There are no rules in a design career. Like I changed my mind a lot. Like at the start of my career, I wanted to be the best illustrator in the world. Then I found web design and I wanted to be the best web design freelancer in the world. And then I started a business and learned UX. And then I figured that wasn't it for me. Um, there are no rules. There's no single path. Like you'll find your own success. If there are rules, those are learnings of people based on their own experience, but every person is different. So make up the rules as you go and break them too. It doesn't really matter um, if as long as you're doing well, as long as you're being nice, as long as you're working hard, it's really up to you to make your own opportunities. And at this time, I lost my hair and grew a beard and found my way in different agencies, worked at different roles like leading digital, advertising, design, which was fun. And yeah, I learned a lot too. Read a bunch of books that I should have done earlier in my career, but really like learned by the book this time because I was a college dropout. I knew I had more to learn. And the best way I knew I was learning is when I taught people within the teams, within the design teams, when I met new people, essentially, when I was talking to people and um, teaching a junior designer how to go from pushing pixels to being more strategic and seeing them move from job to job and like having seeing them grow like from the sidelines and then cheering them on. And I love that the feeling that I got when I was mentoring people and teaching people. And I started talking, giving talks, like teaching UX essentially. Um, during that whole time, I started a UX agency in between, like after selling my first company, learned UX, got deeper into it, started doing workshops, which was fun too. Um, yeah, like I essentially in between jobs, like I didn't know what I was doing, but like I started doing a series of workshops, which was fun, and I really loved it. Like companies hired instructors, and this was in 2019. So I only started doing this 2 years ago. Another semi career change, but really it's really just scaling what I've been doing ever since. So gave talks at different events, taught students, taught companies. And given the pandemic, I had to do it remote now. Started with small design talks or like tutorials. Quickly grew, quickly expanded, and the audience grew and grew, and which was awesome up until like I couldn't even count how many people were joining the Zoom calls. And fast forward to now, that allowed me to start a conference, which was the largest in Asia in 2019. And it was super fun to learn that and really um, getting to host a virtual version of that last year too and inviting bigger speakers and spreading the knowledge about UX design even larger. And I guess like I found my new passion for design. And this was last year. We had Julie Zhu, we had Dan Mall, we had John Saratsky, author of Sprint, Julie Zhu, former VP of design of Facebook. And it was super awesome to learn even remotely. And again, like the next stage, I guess, is starting a new thing, like building on the success and starting a design school where there's essentially zero, there's no barrier to entry. Like you only pay for all your learning, like only after you were hired, right? So basically, you can be a UX designer. You get to work on actual projects, work with actual companies, get mentored, build your portfolio, regardless of your background, and will even help you be placed in full time roles. And we're launching this next week, like the beta of it. Um, so yeah, like I guess this where my path led me, and the path of every designer is never really a straight line. Like at the end of it, you'd see starts a UX school, and I don't know if it will go up or it'll go down. I have no idea, but it's okay. Like not knowing is okay. Like being comfortable, that's the part that's not okay with me. So I'm just trying new things and seeing where it goes. So that's it. Thank you, WCD. It's been fun giving this talk. And follow me on Twitter, CSJ9, CSJ.ux on Instagram, or type my name.com or my website. So that's it. Thank you, guys.
Wow. Wow, that was an amazing, amazing presentation. It was great to see you illustrate your way through your entire journey, and the lessons in between, I think, were very informative for our young audience to know what it takes to take that passion and go from a point where you don't know the exact end point, but keep building on top of it to get to a place where you're happy and you're doing amazing things. I mean, working with Usher and Kobe, it's a dream, but it's an amazing thing.
Thanks. Thanks a
Right.
lot. Thanks very much for
We have a few questions. Thank you. We have a few questions from the audience. A lot of it pertains to junior designers, how they would find mentors, and how important it is to find mentors, and how can they build their portfolio and stand out.
Yeah, for sure. So there's lots of opportunities out there, right? Like there's ADP list, so Amazing Design People list. It's free. Lots of mentors are there, and I find it important really to have given that there's a bigger um a bigger career that you can get in UX if you figure your way out, right? Like you can be a UX researcher, you can be a UX designer, and there's so many paths to take, right? And it could be confusing. For me back then, it was kind of actually easier because I was just building on what I knew, like okay, design, and then the iPhone came out, so maybe I had to learn this. So somehow semi-linearly, I was just following my own thing and finding mentors like from afar really. Like I was learning from tweets, I was learning from people that I recognized, but just really following other people's journeys and successes and failures. So that's like my version of mentorship, really just finding my idols and learning from their own inspiration. I'd say it's definitely helpful now. Yeah, again, it's ADP list. You can see that if you search on Google, that could be good.
Yeah, EduPillars are actually one of our partners, and we've had
Yes,
sessions with them all day. I think some of you
really.
had the fortune of signing up, and we'll be having a mentoring session with some of them today. So that's great.
Hmm.
And yeah, it has been amazing hearing from you. And I think to sum up, it would be go out there and get started. That's the best way,
For sure.
right?
Yeah, just get going. Yeah.
All
All
right.
right.
Thank you, Christian. Thank you for being a part of this, and thank you for helping our audience grow and learn from your experience.
All right.
So,
Thank you. Have a good one.
thank